AWS On Air. I'm A.M. Grabelny, one of your fearless hosts here. I'm a solutions architect.
No fear.
Unfortunately, all good things must
Yes.
come to an end, Jillian. This is
I
our
know.
last segment.
I'm sad.
I am too, but it's been such a wonderful day.
Oh, yeah, it definitely has.
Please tell the wonderful people who you are.
Yep, hello everyone. My name is Jillian Ford and I am a solutions architect. I work with early stage startups. But the real show is our amazing guest here today is Jan from the Redshift team. So Jan, please introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Jan Leszczynski. I'm VP of Redshift. I lead Redshift team.
Fantastic.
No big deal.
No
Just
big
leave the
deal.
whole team, no problem. I love that. So we're here to talk about Redshift, Jan, right? Where does Redshift fall into the pantheon of AWS services? What should I, if I've never heard of Redshift before, what should immediately enter my mind?
So Redshift, first of all, part of AWS data platform. And when we're talking about AWS data platform, we talk about three things. We talk about ML, we talk about databases, and we talk about analytics.
Wonderful.
And Redshift is a data warehousing analytics engine. That's the core of analytics workloads.
Data warehouse.
Yeah. And I think a common thing that a lot of people are unsure of is like, do I need a data warehouse? At what point do I need a data warehouse? So maybe if you can kind of expound on when does it make sense to actually use a data warehouse?
For sure. I would assume that you're at least to some degree familiar with the databases, and you have some business, and you have a database that operates this business. And you have maybe, I don't know, high-frequency trading system that runs. And at some point, you want to analyze trends in your system. You want to know not only what happens right now, you wanted to know what happens over the last day or months or a year. That's where you need data warehousing. That's where analytical scenarios kick in.
That's great. I mean, I see people, especially when getting started, will oftentimes misuse a data warehouse, or misuse, a traditional database.
Yep.
They might treat it with regards like a data warehouse is now I'm going to query it the same way that I do my online transactional, database, which they often walk away from not happy with because they're not using it correctly.
Yeah.
What are the key differences between something like an online transactional database and a data warehouse?
You can obviously use your online transactional database for analytics workload. The only problem that analytical queries can take days to run.
Yes.
Because your operational databases assumes that operations are done using primary keys, using indices. It's a direct access kind of scenarios. Whereas sometimes you want to analyze what happens over the period of time. You can't really index on every single column. It's just not practical, it's too expensive, it's too cumbersome. And then your normal OLTP database gets stuck. Instead of a row-based database, you need a column-based database. Instead of direct access, you need to have scans. And that's where data warehousing helps you. Data warehousing on AWS, it's a massively multi-processing system that runs on the large cluster that can access not terabytes, but petabytes of data. And sometimes we even see customers with exabytes of data warehouse sizes.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and so I know we've had Redshift Provision has been like the main source of using Redshift, and then there was Redshift Serverless that was in preview for a while, but there's an exciting announcement, I guess, with Redshift Serverless.
That's correct. I mean, so we launched Redshift in 2012, so it's been 10 years, and we constantly innovate for our customers during this time. We don't do this just for fun. We do this because our customers need us to. Listening to the customers is our core competency here at AWS. And over time, we added to our Redshift many capabilities. We separated compute and storage. We added capability to access semi-structured data in Data Lake. We added data sharing to make sure multiple organization in your enterprise can access the data. We see two significant trends. We first see that data is growing and data workloads getting more and more complex. They get spiky and unpredictable. We also see that the old patterns of business users going to data administrator for their data needs is going away. We have lots of new kind of users who want to get from data to insights in seconds. These are ML analysts who want to build their model right inside of the data warehouse, or application developers who want to build their applications. The managing data warehouse is not their core skill. That's why they need Redshift serverless that does all the data warehouse management and auto-scaling for them.
Yeah, that's not their forte necessarily, right? If you're a business analyst, you're not thinking deeply about infrastructure and provisioning a cluster or right-sizing a cluster. That's oftentimes the overlooked piece of serverless, in my opinion at least, is it scales up, but it also scales back down, right? So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Why that would help the people that are using Redshift, right? The target audience for Redshift, not have to think about those issues, right? So in terms of performance, in terms of scaling, but also in terms of price too. Like, this is a differentiator on price as well. You're not having to come in and think about how to structure things to get the best price. It'll scale up and down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well. Yeah.
With all the complexity of their workload, customers also don't want to pay when their data warehouse is idle.
Right.
Let's take a kind of very common example, game developers. Game developers sometimes build a game and it's very successful, and then all of them, the whole team, start running and looking at the data. You start having hundreds of users, business users and developers and analysts. They're all looking for the insights they want to do. I don't know, add-ons for their game or build new scenarios. They need a rapidly scaling data warehouse. Sometimes game doesn't go as well.
Right.
And sometimes they just have idle times because, after a big release, people are having a little bit of a break.
They take vacation, yeah.
And what they want to make sure that they don't need to think about, do I scale it up, do I scale it down? They want us to do the work for them and make sure we minimize their cost. That's where serverless is great.
Yeah. So if someone's at home and they know that they need a data warehouse, but they're now on Redshift and they're not really sure if they should go with the serverless option or the provisioned option, how should they think about what's right for them?
I will honestly tell you, for the vast majority of the customer, serverless is a better choice, just because you will get kind of bigger bang for your buck.
Yeah, I agree.
You can spend time on your business needs. You can let us do the work. At the same time, we have customers and we have teams who are very experienced database administrators, and they believe they can do perf tuning better than our engine does by itself. They believe that they can provision their cluster exactly to their workload, and we will for sure give them this capability for all the time. I need to tell you that from the feature perspective, there is no difference between Redshift and Provision and serverless.
Oh, that's awesome.
You can do ML in either of them. You can data sharing in either of them. Integration with Amazon Data Exchange is working in either of them. So it's the same system, just with a kind of different front end.
That's really nice. Now, in terms of other features with Redshift, right? We've been talking a lot about business analysts and things like that. Can you walk us through maybe some of the integrations with common business analyst tooling that Redshift has as well?
For sure. This is not specific to, again,
Not
not
to serverless.
specific to
It
Redshift
works with it,
serverless. It has to work in both provision and servers. It has to work identically. We are guaranteeing that our customers don't need to change their application,
love it.
whether you the provision or serverless,
Wow.
or they can use both in lots and lots of cases. We are supporting, I would say, most of the most popular BI tool.
Okay. Your
Not
Tableaus,
even
Power
Tableau,
BI.
Power BI,
Okay.
Looker. So we are not, while we do believe that AWS native tools are integrated between themselves in the best possible way, we do want to give customer a choice, and we do want to support tools from our competition and our partners as well.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier machine learning with Redshift. Is that something that you could talk about? What does that mean?
Sure, this was a frequent ask for customers who are using SageMaker. SageMaker always worked with Redshift, but what our customers didn't want to do, they didn't want to switch context because it's just tedious. They want, if they store data in Redshift, they want to be able to build their models in Redshift. Also, they want to be able to exercise these models in Redshift. And what we did, we integrated SageMaker into Redshift.
Oh, really?
To make sure it's completely compatible. So
Wow.
we didn't build anything different. It is the same great and powerful SageMaker. You can just use it right from SQL inside of the
Wow,
Redshift
SQL.
without changing context.
That's really cool. You know, Jan, before we went live, you and I were talking. I've done a lot of launches over the years for Redshift, but specifically back in, I think it was 2020, I saw like a different type of launch coming from Redshift, and they were extremely exciting things that all came rapid fire. Almost, you know, there was an article I found called Redshift Reinvented. Right? There was a huge focus on compute, a huge focus on storage optimization. Can you walk us through some of those changes that have been happening over the past 2 years? I feel like serverless and Redshift serverless is also tied into this
Yeah,
as
it's a
well.
good call.
So Redshift was a very first cloud data warehouse. And at the time, when we launched in 2012, our main competition was traditional data warehouses running on premise.
Right.
And some of the problems, like elasticity, haven't been addressed by Redshift from the get-go. Access to data lake hasn't been addressed from the get-go, or data sharing, for example. Over the years, we recognized that our customers' needs are changing. The volume of data is changing. The patterns, the workloads are changing, more spiky, more unpredictable. We also see that most of our customers are keeping data in S3 because S3 will give them the best price performance, the
Right.
lowest cost of storing data. So over the last 2 years, we started with a separation of compute and storage, and then introduced data sharing, and then introduced support for semi-structured data with Super, and then followed with ML. And today we're also announcing Auto GA for automated materialized views, where we continue to reinvent Redshift under the hood to deliver even better performance. Now Redshift will look at the workload, find the patterns, and based on these patterns, automatically create materialized views for our customers, automatically maintain them in incremental fashion, and will auto-rewrite them on the pattern changes. It will even drop the views if this is no longer useful, or if the number of candidates for materialized views is a larger number of, than the budget that customer allow, will show the customer so they can do the trade-off. These kind of innovation are bread and butter for Redshift. That's why we called Redshift the fastest and the most affordable cloud data warehouse.
you mind just clarifying for people who maybe haven't actually used a data warehouse what materialized views are?
You can have your tables. And your tables in analytics are large. We sometimes have tables that have thousands of rows. So if there is a very common scenario that this a very large table is joined by another table, could be large, could be small, denormalization of this joint will lead to much more performance scenario. Or, for example, there are aggregates on the table using group bys are frequently used. So instead of recomputing this every time query is being executed, it makes sense to recompute this on a data change on the schedule and make these preliminary results ready in the database at the idle time or where the query is not being executed. Most of the times, customers were doing this work themselves, but what we want to do, we want to make sure that our database is smarter. That's why we are using a lot of ML in Redshift under the cover to kind of, to add more brain into our data warehouse.
Right, and it seemed like a lot of the launches that I was seeing were around, number one, ingestion of data, right? Like, how do I more easily ingest data into Redshift, which, when you're building a data warehouse, is a massive, concern, right? How do I actually get the data in? And I saw a lot of, over the past 2 years, streaming ingestion targets. And then also what really caught my attention was the Aqua query acceleration, right? Because that's another concern, right? Like, these queries, as you mentioned, could run for days, some of them. So anytime you're going to accelerate my query, I'm going to be happy, right?
Yes, we are adding a lot of different acceleration subcomponents inside of your engine to make sure your aggregates run faster, to make sure your string operations run faster. You mentioned streaming ingestion. Streaming ingestion is one of the most common patterns of pushing data into data warehouse. With integration with Kinesis in Kafka, we can now process up to 200 rows, push up to 200,000 rows per second.
Wow,
so this is
that's
a really vast amount of data.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. I know one question, so I work with early stage startups, and as their business grows and they keep ingesting more and more data, there reaches a point where they start to think about, when am I ready to start actually using a data warehouse? So is there like maybe a suggestion of like a minimum amount of data where maybe it's like, okay, now's actually a time where it makes sense?
I don't think that ever minimum amount of time for minimum amount of data. As soon as they start looking at the analysis that doesn't use primary keys, they should consider data warehouse. They should consider analytical databases. Because that's a separate scenario. That's scans and aggregation is scenario where data warehouse significantly outperforms operational databases, and at the end it can lead to much lower cost.
Basically, when you start having questions that can't be answered by pulling back one row of data, right? That makes a lot of sense.
That's a good way to explain it, yeah.
So we've got about a minute left. Jan, we wanted to thank you first off. Is there anywhere that you should go to get started with Redshift? I know you have chat moderators who can drop links to, but anything you recommend if I wanted to
I would recommend start right now. We just lowered the price by 25%.
Wow.
It's easy, it is fast. I mean, try it. We even give you $300 toward your experiments with Redshift serverless. And the good thing, if you are using Redshift already, you don't need to change your application. Your migration is simple and easy.
That's amazing.
Wow.
So go get those credits for sure. Jillian,
this is perfect.
We're wrapping up now.
I know, I'm sad.
The closing remarks.
I know. I want to do it again.
So,
the whole thing.
We're not going to do it again. We will do it again in Boston.
In Boston, that's
at
right.
Reinforce. So if you
Yes.
enjoyed what you saw today, even if you didn't enjoy it, please come watch us. We'll be broadcasting live from Reinforce. But it's been such a wonderful day here
Yes.
at the New York Summit. I always love hosting with you, Jillian.
Always a
Jan,
pleasure, yes.
Thank you for closing
Thank you
out
so
with
much.
us.
Thank you. That was fun.
We will be signing off now. See you later.
See you.